Apple's privacy initiatives affirmed, Dell copies, and apps leaking confidential data. This is MacVoices. MacVoices is supported by Notion. Work faster, write better, think bigger with Notion. Learn more at notion.com/MacVoices. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, MacVoices Live is back for the first time in 2025. We were off for the first week of the year because I was at CES in Las Vegas, but now we're back and we're going to stay on schedule for as long as we possibly can, which at the moment looks to be at least a few weeks out. So I think we're doing good. We do have a lot to catch up on, a lot of different things to talk about. So we're going to try to keep this one of those nice, tight, concise shows. And if you believe that, then yeah, exactly.
Well,
exactly.
I've already screwed that up for you.
Yeah, it's just the way it goes. But, we're going to have some fun anyway. So we're going to go around the room, let you know who's here, and then we'll get to it. For the first time in 2025, in the top left of my screen, Mr. David Ginsburg. David, it's great to have you.
Great to be here, and Happy New Year. I'm so glad you're back, and I can't wait to hear about CES and all these other great topics we're going to have tonight.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing a little bit, and we'll talk about that as we go along.
Yep.
Next up, someone we haven't had here for a long time because he has schedule conflicts on a very regular basis, but Jeff Butts is back to join us. Jeff, it's good to see you. Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year. Good to be seen. Glad I could find the time to make it in.
So for the folks who aren't regular, long-time listeners, give us a quick introduction to you and where you do what you do.
Well, I am a tech enthusiast. I'm a tech writer, currently writing for XDA developers, formerly of Macworld, Mac Observer, Tom's Hardware, Hot Hardware, a couple other places.
Great.
Now I still cover Mac stuff occasionally, but I've also branched out a lot to Raspberry Pi, 3D printing, stuff like that.
Well, it's good to have you here. We're glad you made it.
Thank you.
Glad you made it. Brian Flanigan-Arthurs is licking the wounds from his football team's losses, but other than that, he's here. Brian, good to see you.
Thank you so much. Like I was saying earlier, I got a little extra time now back in my weekend. I would have preferred not to, though, but I am very excited to be back here.
Well, we're sure glad you're here.
Thank you.
I'm also glad that Jeff Gamet is here because Jeff was sort of in and out for a little while, and things seem to have calmed down a bit for him. So, Jeff, welcome. It's great to have you, and I'm happy that everything is working out.
Me too. I'm super happy to be here, and I'm also really glad that you never wised up and realized how smooth things run when I'm not here, so that I could keep coming back. So thank you for that.
Hey, I'm just glad the charges were dropped and you're back. That's good,
right? That was kind of freaky for a minute.
Yeah. The convictions would have been legendary.
Wait, I think we're talking about a different thing, because I thought we were talking about the charges against you and the federal restraining order that meant I couldn't be around you because of the charges. Nonetheless, that was an awesome party and totally worth it.
I think things got a little mixed up there, but we'll address that in After Dark. Meanwhile, Marty Jencius is here. Marty, it's great to have you.
It's good to be here. This is the week that classes start at the university I work at. However, I've taken on a new role as a home health care nurse. My wife on Sunday went outside, slipped on the steps, and broke her wrist.
Oh, no.
Now, there are folks that said that I left the hose on. I did not leave the hose on. I did have the hose on because somebody had thrown gravel and sand all over my steps, and I washed all that off. But I had nothing to do with it, I swear. And I'll save the rest for After Dark.
I have this vision of you wearing all white as a home nursing assistant, and
with the nurse hat too.
Yeah, well, yeah, it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
That's way better than the image that I had. Do you remember Christmas Vacation and Cousin Eddie standing at the curb
Yeah.
by
Right.
the storm drain?
Yeah.
That's kind of the image that I had going on.
Yeah.
And it was glorious.
And that's one of my favorite scenes of the movie.
Merry
Yeah.
Christmas.
Mhm.
Last but absolutely not least, in an area of the country that has nothing to do with being cold at the moment, Jim Rea. Jim, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're safe. And I'm glad from what you said pre-show that you're not in any imminent danger.
It actually is kind of cold here for California right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, but you didn't have the wrong kind of heat. Let's put it that way.
Right.
Okay, we'll just
It's
leave
so
it there.
cold, Jim's
Just-
wearing his thermal Tivas. For a very small subset of listeners, they're like, I get that joke, and that was actually really funny.
You can explain
happy
it to
for
the rest
them.
of us later. Well, I don't want to take too much time, but I think it's only appropriate that I just talk for a second about CES, because I'm just in the process of starting to edit and release the interviews we shot there. Norbert Frosse and I attacked the show with our usual gusto, and there's a little debate over exactly how many interviews we shot, but there are a lot that will be coming your way. It was a great show. There's been some discussion as to whether it was a smaller show, or whether things were just spread out more. My personal vote is for the more spread out, because all 5 halls were open, south being top and bottom, as well as west, and the Sands Convention Center on top of that, and other halls in the Sands on top of that, and then of course all the suites that some vendors do. So there just was a lot of stuff there. There's no way that anybody could possibly, in fact, I don't think there's any way any team could possibly cover it all. But it definitely some trends. For one thing, it seems like everybody wants to help you sleep better. Another thing that Marty will be interested in is everybody's developing some kind of eyewear or goggles or something of that nature to give you AR or VR experiences. There were also a lot of exoskeletons, which sounds a little strange, but I could count at least 3 or 4 that I saw. I never did bother to have one demonstrated for me or put one on, but there were a lot of those. Some were supposed to be assistive from a medical standpoint. Some were just assistive from a performance standpoint, which was one of the stranger things. The internet seemed to lose its mind over the robot vacuum that has an arm that can pick your dirty socks up and move them out of the way so it can vacuum under them.
Yeah.
I saw that, and it's like, okay, we'll see how that plays out. But that seemed to be one of the really hot things this year. And I guess the reason that I'm just a touch skeptical is in past years, some of the hottest things seem to be the ones that died the quickest deaths. So we'll see how that turns out. But yeah, there's, nothing I would say that was really earth shaking. AI is in absolutely everything. I mean, Jeff, any second now, we will have AI underpants. There's no question in my mind.
I'm going to Google that right now.
I knew you would. I knew you would.
No, you should
so-
chat GPT it.
I did watch the Delta keynote, a good chunk of it, and I was very interested in seeing what they have come up with, that concierge service they're going to offer. I thought was pretty cool, and some of the other things that are going with technology with Delta was pretty impressive.
Yeah, I tell you, Dave, it's really, CES is a difficult show in some ways because there's so many specialties that are represented. There are so many keynotes covering so many different things.
Yeah.
You start with TVs, you go to cars. Now the airlines are getting into the act. It's home appliances, and of course now so many of the home appliances claim to have some type of AI built into them. Whether they are useful or not is another discussion. But yeah, there's just a lot there. So I would encourage anyone, by all means, please watch the MacVoices live coverage because we do ours a little bit differently. But there are plenty of wrap-up articles out there. You'll have some overlap because some people were impressed by different things. I know I look at those articles and think, okay, we saw that, we saw that, we saw that. We didn't see that, and I don't care about the other five. So it just depends on what your interests are. So anybody see anything that caught their eye? I'm curious from a distance. Was there anything that you thought was really intriguing?
I think one of the things that I saw coming out, lots of ads for battery charging packs, you know.
Anchor,
and
especially.
I thought, why? I mean, I have a phone that lasts all day long, and I don't imagine myself going somewhere where I'm going to need to find some immediate charge with it. But that seemed to be all the ads I got. Anchor and other companies, Hitachi, yeah, all doing kind of battery packs for stuff, which kind of surprised me. And again, that's only the media that came my way. So
right. We saw a couple of those. We sort of steered away from them because, to your point, Marty, we either all have them or we're looking for new ones. Some were going for bigger capacity. Some were trying to go for size. Of course, some are a little bit late to the GAN party, getting that set up. Yeah. So it just depends again on what you were interested in. Anchor does an amazing job, I think, of creating batteries of every size, shape, wattage that you can possibly want. So that if you want it big, you get it big. You want it small, you get it small. So, you want them with displays, you can get them with displays. You want them without displays, you get them without displays. USB-C, USB-A, again, MagSafe, anything you can think of. So if you're in the market for battery packs, by all means, get out there and look because you will be able to find them. No question about it.
Crazy. The Hitachi hub that they came out with for the Mac Mini, I thought that was pretty impressive.
That was cool. That.
Really cool. We talked about that on my show. So that really caught my eye too. And there was like I said, all these accessories, Pluggable, and all these other companies that have all this docking stations. I'm sure you talked to Larry at OWC again, and he had a lot of good stuff with the Thunderbolt 5, and on and on.
Yeah. Dave, thank you for doing that because I'm going to put a plug in for that when the interview comes out. Larry is probably one of the most technically savvy people that is in the industry, and he has some thoughts on Thunderbolt 5 products and the safety surrounding them. Nice. And of course, recognizing that OWC is making Thunderbolt 5 products, but there are also some other issues that he touched on that before you buy anything, you may want to listen to that and just pay a little attention to it.
Look forward to it.
Yeah, because I saw a couple things, I heard a couple things, was told a couple things that were by certain vendors, the two shall remain nameless, that were just flat out wrong. And if I know they're wrong, it's kind of shocking that they don't know they're wrong. So, it is what it is. God, there's so much stuff here. So but one thing sort of related. Oh, Marty? Sorry. Oh, you're muted, Marty.
No, I'm good. I don't have anything to add.
Okay. Oh, and Brian, I'm sorry I didn't see yours. You saw the Anchor 140 watt?
Yeah, I was taking a look at that, and something that caught my eye.
Yeah. Yeah, with the retractable cables?
Yep. No, I'm thinking of the different one, actually. I'm thinking of the brick. The brick. Okay. It had the I think it was 4 ports, the screen that had how much wattage I think is going through.
I believe that had the retractable cable with it too.
Oh, did it also?
Yeah.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah. That was one of those things. It's like, why didn't somebody do that before?
Yeah, exactly.
So, but that's it. Everything they can do to add value to different products, they're trying to do. No question. One thing, Apple did not have a presence or an official presence on the show floor, but one of their people showed up and talked about Apple's privacy initiatives. And it seemed, from what I heard, both in the article I just threw into the chats as well as conversation, that played well, even though she was kind of accused of just preaching the party line about Apple's privacy stance and the way they promote and market privacy. But once again, it was nice to see Apple have some kind of presence at CES. Especially at a time when privacy continues to be such a hot topic. So I wanted to make sure I brought that one up.
Yeah.
The other thing, sorry, Dave, go ahead.
I said, yeah, good to see. I mean, the privacy is very important, and you don't see a lot of discussion about it at CES. At least I hadn't seen it in the coverage, but glad to see that Apple's doing that.
You make an interesting point. There did not seem to be, at least in the corners where we talked, a great deal of talk about privacy one way or another. Right. It's something I always try to bring up when there's anything that communicates with anything else. I try to ask the question, and putting no one down, or but sometimes you just have to take people at their word and say, no, we don't keep anything, we don't store anything, we don't scrape anything. Right. And if that's true, that's great. And I hope that when they make those representations that they're being honest.
Agree.
Today's edition of MacVoices is supported by Notion. Work faster, write better, think bigger with Notion. Learn more at notion.com/MacVoices. Time is money. Time spent learning and working with a variety of apps to get done what you need to get done costs money. The fix? Notion. Notion combines your notes, docs, and project into one space that's simple and beautifully designed. Time is money. Using AI can definitely help speed up your work, but jumping from your project files out to an AI app and back slows you down. Notion AI solves that by directly integrating AI into your workspace, so it isn't something separate that takes extra time to use. Time is money. Over half of the Fortune 500 companies are using Notion. And that's one group that is very focused on both time and money. The fully integrated Notion AI helps you work faster, write better, and think bigger, doing tasks that normally take you hours in just seconds. Try Notion for free when you go to notion.com/MacVoices. That's all lowercase letters, notion.com/MacVoices, to try the powerful, easy-to-use Notion AI today. And when you use my link, you're supporting MacVoices. Notion.com/MacVoices. Thanks to Notion for their support of MacVoices. But one of the fun things that came up that really it was Apple related, but not from Apple, is Dell was kind enough to start to rename all their products. And it seemed like they were naming them with some very familiar terms, because it seemed that they basically copied Apple. And they got a lot of heat from it in the press. There was a lot of mocking going on there. According to this report, I was not at this press conference, but they got mocked at their own press conference.
No surprise.
Yeah. Macalope did a number on him too. If you look at the latest article on, there was a crossover between, let's talk about Mark Zuckerberg and, by the way, Dell. Talking about new ideas. It looks like Dell hasn't come up with any either.
I've been working with Dell products for over 25 years, and it's always been the Latitude line in the enterprise. And you had Inspiron, you had the Optiplex, you had all XPS, which I think were one of the more horrible models they had. For them to now be just like Apple and say Dell Pro, Dell Max. I mean, okay. I mean, all this kind of causes some more confusion for the consumer, I think. But they're also using that naming in the enterprise side too. So, does the Max mean we're going to get a higher end product? Where is their the Precision line, which is the high end Dell models? I didn't see any mention of that. Is that going to be the Max? I mean, it's going to be very confusing.
It gets worse though.
Yeah.
Because you have Apple's naming convention for the computers, but then they have 3 levels under each naming convention. So
Right.
if you get like a high-end low one, is that better than a low-end high one?
Yeah.
It does nothing to reduce confusion.
I'm sorry, Jeff.
Sorry.
I was
Yeah,
going to
I'm
say, I think I know now why Apple stopped producing stickers, because they could easily be taken by Dell computers and slapped over Dell.
I've had plenty of people.
And then
do
they
that.
could say, well, I got a Pro, or I got a Pro Max.
This is a Mac. Look. No, it isn't.
So Webb just put in the chat room, but didn't Apple take names like Max and Ultra from Samsung? I honestly don't remember that. Did they?
I think Samsung did use that naming convention before Apple started adopting it, but I can't remember for sure.
Oh,
Shows you how well it worked for Samsung.
yeah. You don't do it anymore.
Yeah. Or they just surrendered when Apple started using it, if that's the case. I don't know.
Maybe they looked at another bowl of water.
Wow.
Wow.
But yeah, so I'm looking forward to ordering a Dell Pro Max Plus
Ultra.
There you
Ultra.
go.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Go along with that with Teams.
Oh, don't say that word, David. Don't say that word. We will get to that in a minute. So yeah, but sometimes you just have to wonder, why? Who thought this was a good idea?
Here's my favorite name so far, which comes out of the 9 to 5 article that you're using, Chuck.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, there really is going to be a Dell Pro Max Micro Plus.
With AI.
With AI.
I think they should just sell Dell and give the money back to the shareholders.
Yeah.
Jeff, I'm sorry, you were cut off. Say again.
I'm just wondering, Jeff Gamet kind of brought it up already, but is the Plus going to come at the end of it or in the middle of it, or does it depend on what day of the week you're buying it on? It's just it's a mess. I don't know why they would do that.
Well,
Perplexed.
Jeff, yeah. I mean, couldn't they see this coming? Were they just that tone deaf?
I mean, Jeff Gamet, do you remember? Were you even around when we started just totally at Mac Observer, just totally trashing the idea of Apple TV compared to Apple TV Plus, and some of these wonky naming conventions, and it's not going away.
What I remember is that we would routinely ridicule the naming conventions, at least in our meetings, and one of our best instigators was Kelly Gamet.
Of course, I mean we trashed that several times on Daily Observations.
But Jeff, trashing the naming conventions is one thing, but just completely copying one of your competitors for no good reason. To the point of what Jeff just said. I can't repeat it, Jeff. You do it again, but something that almost borderline makes no sense.
Yeah,
just to be able to say
I
you
agree.
did it.
Well, it makes more sense than Inspiron and all the other weird names that they had for their computers. At least now people have an idea of a grading in terms of what the steps are in the hardware.
The high end, you had latitude and precision. No one knew those names other than working in corporate enterprise.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
that's a good point, though.
What's just so ironic is that this is what Dell got the most press for, is the copying of the names, not the products themselves.
How is this
Any
going
press
to
is
work?
good press.
There you go.
Now, how is this going to work for the average PC buyer? They're going to be so confused trying to figure out what they're getting. Keep in mind, a lot of people when you say, what kind of computer do you use?
Dell.
And they'll say Adobe or Word. Like they don't even grasp the concept of here's a specific computer model, even though they bought it. And separating that from an application that they're using, not even an operating system. So this is going to play really well for the average consumer.
Especially using they said Dell is their entry level model. I mean, okay, Dell. I mean, what is it?
So their upper level models aren't Dells?
Dell Pro or Dell Max.
Their upper level model, isn't it just an Intel MacBook Pro that they've recycled and put in the Dell box?
Good one.
Wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me. So under the heading of, we haven't done a scams and spams for a while. And I think this qualifies, and this is also sort of a PSA as well. But there's a big data breach going on where a number of popular apps are leaking data, and it's not because of the developers. It apparently is because of an advertising network that they were using or interfacing with. And I will confess, I'm not completely sure on exactly how it worked, but there are a number of apps out there, a lot of apps that you will probably recognize, notably, much to my surprise, Office 365 apps. And I say surprised because I can't believe that Microsoft got caught with something like this, but they did. But so I would encourage you, if you don't click through anything else in the show notes this time, click through that and just make sure that if you are using any of those apps, that you don't have a problem with them maybe leaking information, especially your location. And if you do have a problem with it, then do something about it. Get rid of them.
I believe there may be another option beyond getting rid of the apps. I did notice the researchers found that if you turned off app tracking, the data didn't get leaked.
That was the one key that iPhone has that that no one of the others have it. That you have, ask app not to track, and I turn that off all the time. And I think you'd hope most consumers who are using iPhones would do that, but
they're not.
Wouldn't be surprised if they don't.
Yeah, they're not. I do a little bit of consulting on the side around where I live, and there's a lot of people that have no idea what that even does.
Do they think that it's a benefit to their process? Like, oh, they're going to track my apps for me.
Yeah, they think it's good for them because the apps trick them into thinking it's going to be beneficial.
Yeah.
Because just before it prompts you to choose Ask App Not to Track, all of these app developers are including messages that, if you allow us to track, we'll be able to better provide you with the information you need.
Wow.
So the misinformation and scam continues.
And Apple's done a pretty good job of giving you a warning and not, they don't push the message too hard. They give you the option. Do you want to allow the app to track you or not? And so in some ways, I wish they pushed it harder, but I'm sure then they get pushback from other people. So, but at least that you have that tool. So if you don't understand it, there are a dozen articles, a million articles out there about it. Go and just spend a little bit of time educating yourself. But I don't know about you all, but my default is always do not track, or at the very most allow tracking while using the app. But that's all.
Come on, you got Candy Crush, Tinder, and Grindr.
Right. The Ask App Not to Track, ever since Apple introduced that feature, I have chosen Ask App Not to Track for everything I've installed.
Yep.
That is distinctly different from the location tracking. With Ask App Not to Track, you don't have the option of allow when you're using the app. It's always on or off.
I said that wrong. You're right, Jeff.
You were referring to location services, which that's another option, is to turn off location services for that app if that's possible.
But it's not as prevalent as the Ask App Not to Track pop up because you get it right in your face when you first install the app.
Yep, absolutely. And it's unfortunate, but I mean, I think the majority of your average users don't really pay attention to the articles that we've all written, the press releases Apple has put out, even stuff in the more mainstream media, like your New York Times tech section, Washington Post. That's it. People just not enough people see it, I don't think.
Yep.
Eric Bolden couldn't be with us tonight, but he's in the chat and he just put in app tracking and location tracking get confused by users. Hey, I just confused it, so there, I'm the poster child for it. But yeah, you're right. You're right. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.